Okay, here's the last side here before I work on the head. And I'm just going to put this side on. Just as a reminder, I painted this under here just to bleed out that other artwork because this yellow artwork on these does show a little bit through. I don't know when you take the protective film off what's going to happen. So I'm lining this thing up and I got my other side. One quick thing I want to note before I put this down is if you're going to do it on the side, I'm doing mine on the side. I have mine on a cart, like a wooden cart. I don't know. You'll want to probably put it up on something if you're going to do it on the side, but put something down so you don't damage the other side of the Rad-Cals. But this is important. You want to leave this hanging over. You don't want to put any weight on this if you can help it. It's not really designed for that. So just this one quick thing. So again, on this, I'm going to clamp it. I'm going to trim it like I did in the last video, and I'll get this stuck on, and then I'll show you a video. This video will be drilling out some of the holes after I get this side applied. Okay, I got this side down and it looks pretty good. Corner looks good here. A little tiny gap by this. I don't know why, but it's going to be covered by the leg. But everything here looks really good. This little spot right here is where I'm interested in. The issue with this side was, take a look at the way this is cut. Pretty rough, and I got underneath here. Now all this will be covered by the rails, so I'm not concerned with the condition. But the problem is, you can see when you lay these down, if you don't take these abrasions off, you get a little bubble on the edge. That's not good for me. So I've got to dig that out. And you can see, like, it wasn't like this on the other side. So this is the way my decals came, and I didn't do anything with it because, like I said, from afar, whoop, my focus is bad. All that's going to be covered by the rails. I'll show you what I mean. So here I just threw one of my rails just kind of on the side here, and I powdered my rails black. I'm kind of doing this game in a black powder coat, so you guys can see that later when I'm finished. So I powder coated a lot of the metals. But essentially, you won't see a lot of this to there. That's about what it'll look like when it's on. But when you peel that off there, let me gently take that off here. Set it down. Again, the coating is on this thing, so I'm not going to scratch it. But you've got this stuff here, and this is problematic. So right here, you can see where that crap got underneath when I peeled off the protective layer. All that stuff was on this side. It like flipped over onto this side. So I guess live and learn from my mistake. I don't think it's going to be a huge issue, but of course, I want this to be flat. So I'm probably going to take a penknife. That's what I did here, and let me show you. I'm filming by myself today, so let me see if I can get this on film. All right, well here's what I'm digging out. I mean, that came from underneath, and that stuff stuck down, but it's still kind of bubbled in a few spots. And so when I pull the knife underneath there, you can see what's on my blade. That's what's coming up. See if we can. There you go. See that? Okay, so. Not a catastrophe at all, but maybe if I'm doing this again, I'm going to take care of all those abrasions. Like I said, it wasn't on the other pieces, just on this piece. So I didn't think much of it, and now I kind of wish I would have done something. So learn from my mistakes. Okay, this side's on, and I showed you that little issue. I was able to get all that crap out of there. It just took a little while, so I'm pretty happy with the results here. It looks really good. You'll see here I have the light on, and the reason I do is because I want to find these holes. So I just took some light. Now you'll see light shines through this pretty good. So this is a good way to find the holes on your cabinet. The rough part is you really don't want to drill them from the top side. Sorry, it's blinding light. You don't want to drill these from the top side because if you miss, right, you're in trouble. You can drill them from the bottom side and it'd be just fine. These are covered up by the rails. But this little guy here, is really close to the edge of the cabinet, which means when I put a drill bit up to it, when I put this up to it, it's going to rub. See, it rubs on the inside of the cabinet. Like you can't even drill it, so it's so close. So I'm probably going to have to drill this one from the top side. So this is kind of the best way to do that, is use light to find it. So I literally, if you can look here, I just put a really bright headlamp shining up there, and that's a good way to find it. And then, sorry, let me set this down. And you can find all your holes using the light. Sorry. So here's the other holes here. Here's one. And here's the other ones back here. So you can see that one. So I need to do that for the rail. Obviously this one for the pivot arm. And you can tell real quick by looking, let me find this thing, hold on. Okay. You can see how that's kind of square. It's square because the head of the bolt has to sit in there square. So just take a look at those holes. Sorry, it's not focusing. Darn it. Sorry, there we go. Take a look at those holes on the cabinet and make sure you know what shape they are, because the bolt won't fit in there unless you square it off with the knife. So I'll drill a hole and then I'll take a pen knife and cut that out. I'll try and show you guys some of that. But then the rest of the cabinet, the only other things I got to do is those two there. So, and I'll do those. Okay, so this back one I can do, and the drill won't hit. So I'm using this crappy drill to do it, but it's fine. So I have the drill bit in there. It's the exact same size. I'll show you about how fast this drills out. Okay, sorry, I got a little close there. So there it is. That's about how fast it drills out. Pretty simple and pretty clean. So really easy. And I'll do that with the rest of these cabs. Like I said, I've done it on the front here a couple times, and I've actually used the pen knife for this, and I'll do it over here. The thing I showed you here is the square bolt for the pivot arm on this. That will be the trickier one. And real quick, what I'm doing with this is I just drilled some holes in it, and then I'm just taking my knife and just cutting to the edge. See how there's an inner wood circle? That's so you can hold your button. So what you kind of have to do there is you have to cut above this so your blade stays above it. So what I'm going to do is I'll just cut this, and I'll show you. It cuts pretty easy, and I just cut to the edge of that circle on the wood. So that piece is cut, and this piece is cut to the edge, and then I can just cut this off right here. Okay, I can trim it like so, and I'm just removing material. You can see it cuts in chunks. So here's a bunch of chunks of it. So I just drill some holes in it and I cut around it, and then I'll take my Dremel and kind of polish. Then I'll take my Dremel and kind of polish that circle out. So I'm just kind of going around here and trimming to the edge. So I'll take my blade and I'll walk it to the edge of that wood, and you can feel it with your blade. Again, I just want to remove the material. This is all going to be covered up, so I'll get this to a nice perfect circle, but I have to remove the material in the middle first, so I can, if I decide to Dremel the edge to smooth it out, I can, which is what I'll do. And it'll fit just fine. The actual button part will fit on the rail. So the rail will hold that button, and then the small part of the button goes through this hole where it gets the nut put on. So this will work just fine. It doesn't have to be beautiful, but I want it to kind of look nice, so I'll work on it. Alright guys, here are my final thoughts. So I got the rails on here. So obviously a couple things. You've got to peel this down to get the rails on. So I got the glass channel and the rails on. I put the flipper buttons on after that. The lockdown bar, you can see I powder coated this a certain way, and I'm in the middle of doing all this work. But to get these bolts on, you got to peel this stuff back. And then same with your coin door frame, you have to attach it using all that. Don't forget, obviously, you've got to get the ground braid and all that stuff in there. And then you got to cut this stuff out. So you can see when you peel that back, these things are pretty awesome looking. I'm not going to do a final video when this is all done and everything's peeled, because I've got a lot of work to do. And I've got work to do on the head here. So I've got this head, the taxi head, which I'm working on. One quick thing is when I painted the sides, I wanted this all painted because I didn't want anything to show on the head. And I had already painted the front, and I was using some tape, and I left the tape on for a long time, and it pulled off some chunks of filler or whatever else it was. So I've got to redo this front here. But here's my side decals. And one thing you will notice is this is in the artwork. So it's kind of a non-negotiable thing. So again, you might have a little overhang here. I'm going to trim this piece just like I did on the cabinet. I've got the back of it painted and all this done. So we'll get to that after a bit. But the other thing is, obviously, you'll do these corner pieces here. Those cabinet protectors, and then the last thing I'll show you here is these holes here. You've got to square off the bolt heads, so when you install them, they fit. And on the other side, I was able to get that one in there. But in this case, you know, these things are like this. So, and you've got to peel this down. So I kind of want to wait to put these in. I didn't peel this one over here. I just test fit it. But essentially, because it's got that square head on there, it should slide right in there like so. And you push it and it goes in. So I'll get that figured out. And I might install that last, you know, when I get this thing set where I want it and put the playfield in it. That's probably what I'll do then, which is fine. But other than that, looks pretty good. I'm going to leave the protective film on there and until I'm ready to move it around a ton. But that's it. My final thoughts are these things are pretty cool. I mean, they're not that plug and play. If you're not real concerned about how it looks, I think this is going to look really good. But my 2 cents are these corners have to be really good. Anything with artwork cut into it, you've got to get that. You've got to start from there. You know, you've got to start there, and you can finish later another spot. But essentially, you want these corners to be good. And then, you know, when you trim the back, you want to trim that maybe to expose the edge. So other than that, I think I'm done. Thanks. And if you have any questions, shoot me a note.